Here's Mike in Houston as we head back to the phones. Mike, I'm glad you waited. Welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you, Rush. I have a couple of questions for George Stephanopoulos.
Yeah.
I'd like to ask George, why is it up to Governor Pence to remind the listeners and viewers that the Hobby Lobby ruling in June of last year? And why is it up to Governor Pence to remind George Stephanopoulos, who sat in the White House, who was in the White House in '93? Why is it up to Mike Pence to remind George about Bill Clinton's comments and statement that you read from 1993? Why does that have to be Mike Pence's defense? That's the journalist's job, and I guess this is the way that George Stephanopoulos makes a difference.
Yeah.
His way of making a difference, right?
Not only that, he's not a journalist. That's the point. He didn't go to journalism school. Not that that matters anymore. But he's not a journalist. He is a Democrat Party activist that has a job at ABC News and wears a couple of different hats there. He is a Democrat Party activist. He was in the Bill Clinton war room with James Carville. He's a Democrat Party activist. Of this, there can be no dispute. But we are to believe that one day, George Stephanopoulos decided to take that hat off and walk inside the revolving door at ABC News. And the moment he got inside, he was overwhelmed with objectivity. It was like he walked in there and a cloud, a mist, enveloped every pore of Stephanopoulos' small body. And objectivity and fairness permeated every bodily orifice, including in the brain, and Stephanopoulos was no longer a Democrat Party activist, which he had been for decades. Stephanopoulos was no longer interested in advancing a Democrat Party agenda because once he entered the revolving door at ABC News, he became automatically Walter Cronkite Jr. He became Edward R. Murrow. He became a journalist, and he forgot everything he ever cared about. He walked up to the coat check, and instead of checking his coat, he checked his life experiences. He put them all there at the coat check and walked into the newsroom as a totally disinterested, uninterested in the outcome of events, objective newsman. This is what we're to believe. That's the magic that happens. A Democrat Party activist, the instant he gets inside ABC News, sheds all of that and immediately becomes a fair and balanced and objective newsman. And I submit to you that that's not what happens at all. He's a Democrat Party activist that works daily and actively advancing the Democrat Party and leftist agenda under the guise of being a fair and reasonable and unbiased and objective newsman. Those are great questions. Why is it up to Mike Pence to point out the historical context and truth and the facts of what the Indiana law is? Why does Mike Pence have to go and defend allegations that are lies? Why does the governor of Indiana have to show up anywhere and defend a bunch of questions which actually are just political talking points? The journalist's job is to know all of this stuff and to ask different questions. But that's not what ABC News is. It's not what NBC News is. We all know this now.